voice.
When I was in school, I was obsessed with astronomy. Not in a normal way. Most kids like football or video games. I spent evening reading about planets. I knew the names of stars most people never heard of. I even tried learning where different planets would appear during different times of the year. I liked that feeling that the universe was endless. Back then, life felt very small. School, homework, grey apartment buildings, the same streets every day. But the night sky felt different. For my birthday, my parents gave me a telescope. It wasn't some expensive professional thing, just a small home telescope from an electronics store. Cheap plastic parts, thin metal legs that shook every time I touched them. But to me, it felt incredible. I remember helping my father assemble it in the living room while my mother laughed at how impatient I was. That same night, I carried it into my bedroom. Our apartment was on the 8th floor, so I had a good view of the city. At night, most windows stayed dark, but some apartments still glowed with yellow light. People cooking, watching TV, walking from room to room. Sometimes I watched the buildings almost as much as the stars. Every night became a routine. I waited for my parents to go to sleep, then I quietly got out of bed, moved the telescope near the window and opened my notebook. I wrote down everything I saw. The moon, bright stars, cloud movement, constellations. Sometimes I even made small sketches. My handwriting always looked messy because my hands got cold near the window. I usually stayed awake for hours. The city felt completely different late at night, quieter, almost empty. Sometimes I could hear distant cars outside or water pipes inside the walls, but most nights were silent. One evening, while adjusting the telescope, I noticed the flickering light in the apartment block across from ours. At first, I didn't think much about it. The building looked exactly like ours, same grey walls, same balconies, same windows. On, off, on, off. The apartment somewhere around the middle floors kept flashing. Slowly, not like a broken bulb, more like someone pressing the switch. I ignored it at first. I thought maybe someone was bored or drunk, or maybe some kids were messing around. I went back to looking at the stars, but the next evening the lights started flickering again. Same apartment, same reading. That was the first time I pointed the telescope towards the building. The image was blurry at first, then slowly it focused. I could see part of a hallway, yellow light, old wallpaper. Then I saw the person. He was standing beside the wall switch, just pressing it on and off, again and again, very slowly. No sudden movements, no emotion, just standing there in silence. Click, dark, click, light. I remember waiting for him to stop, but he never did. After maybe 15 minutes I finally looked away. That night I wrote about it in my notebook for the first time. Apartment across from ours, middle floors, light flickering for 16 minutes. At the time I still felt harmless, just strange. But over the next few days I became obsessed with that apartment. I stopped caring about the stars completely. Every evening I checked the windows first. And every evening the flickering started again, always around the same time. Sometimes the person stood close to the window, sometimes deeper inside the apartment. One night I noticed the hallway behind them looked darker than before, like the light in the rest of the apartment were off. Another night I realized the person hadn't moved from the exact spot for almost an hour, not once. That bothered me more than the flickering itself. I started writing more notes. I even started eating dinner faster so I wouldn't miss it.
Excuse me, class.
Sometimes during school I caught myself thinking about the apartment instead of listening to the teacher. I wanted to understand what I was seeing. One night while looking through the telescope I suddenly had a strange feeling, like the person knew they were being watched. I can't explain why, nothing changed exactly, but the way he stood felt different, almost aware. After that I started keeping my curtains partly closed while I watched. just enough space for the telescope lens. I remember my room feeling colder after that. Not physically colder, just uncomfortable. Like I shouldn't be there. A few nights later, something even stranger happened. The flickering suddenly stopped. The person stood completely still for maybe 20 seconds, then slowly turned his head toward the window, toward my building. I pulled away from the telescope immediately. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it. I told myself I was being stupid. There was no way he could see me from that distance. Still, I didn't look through the telescope again that night. I stayed in bed, staring at that sailing until morning. But the next evening, I watched again anyway. I couldn't stop. I had a feeling that checking the apartment became a part of my nightly routine. Then, one night, I woke up suddenly. At first, I thought I was dreaming. My room kept flashing. On, off, on, off. The ceiling light was flickering, exactly the same way. I froze instantly. I remember staring towards the bedroom door. I felt like someone was standing there. For a few seconds I couldn't move at all. Then I screamed. My parents rushed into the room almost immediately. My father turned on the light, my mother grabbed me and kept asking what happened. But the room looked completely normal. The light worked perfectly. My father checked the switch twice. Nothing. I tried explaining what I saw, but even while speaking it started sounding stupid. Eventually my parents convinced me it was just a nightmare, that I spent too much time awake at night. For the next several days I stayed away from the telescope. And strangely enough, the apartment across from ours stayed dark. No flickering, no figure, nothing. Slowly, things started feeling normal again. I went back to astronomy books, back to school, back to my normal routine. A few weeks later, I finally opened my notebook again. I wanted to continue my observations like before. I flipped through pages filled with notes about stars and planets. Then I reached the final page and froze. There was something new written there. One sentence. The handwriting wasn't mine. It looked rougher, sharper, like someone pressed the pen too hard into the paper. I stared at it for almost a minute before reading it again. Do you like watching too?
Subscribe, ring the bell, or be lost to the darkness forever.